The average Australian house now costs over $800,000. But in 10 specific towns across this country, you can still buy a genuine house, not a shack, an actual house, for under $300,000. Today we count them down. Number 1 might shock you. Before we get into the list, let's address the obvious question. Why are these towns so cheap when the rest of Australia is so expensive? 5 reasons typically combine. Distance from major employment centers. Single industry economic exposure that's declining. Smaller populations meaning thinner buyer pools. Climate or geographic challenges. And sometimes, simple lack of awareness. Buyers don't know these towns exist. For each town on this list, we'll cover what you actually get for the money, who tends to buy there, and whether the low price is a genuine opportunity or a warning sign. Cheap doesn't always mean good. But it doesn't always mean bad either. Context matters enormously when you're hunting bargain Australian property. Number 10. Quilpie, Queensland. Median house price around $220,000. Quilpie is a tiny town in southwestern Queensland with under 900 residents, but it offers a unique incentive. The local council has at various points offered cash grants to attract new residents. You can buy a 3-bedroom brick home with land for less than the price of a Sydney parking space. The economics are challenging. Employment options are limited to agriculture, tourism, and a small mining presence. But for retirees, remote workers, or genuine lifestyle buyers, Quilpie offers an extraordinarily low cost of living. As an investment though, capital growth is likely to be minimal. This is a lifestyle play, not a wealth-building strategy. Number 9. Norseman, Western Australia. Median house price around $190,000. Norseman sits at the western edge of the Nullarbor, a former gold mining town with declining population. You can buy a solid 3-bedroom home here for less than $200,000, often furnished. The catch, and there's always a catch at this price point, is isolation. The nearest major town, Kalgoorlie, is 200 kilometers away. Employment is minimal. Services are stretched. For an investor, Norseman makes sense only if you have a specific reason to be there, like FIFO work in the surrounding mining sector. Pure speculation at this price point rarely pays off. Number 8. Cobar, New South Wales. Median house price around $240,000. Cobar is a working mining town in central western New South Wales with around 4,000 residents. Unlike some towns on this list, Cobar has an actual functioning economy thanks to ongoing copper and silver mining operations. Houses here can be acquired cheaply, and rental yields can exceed 7% because of mining worker demand. The risk is the same as every mining town. When the mines slow or close, the property market follows. Cobar is a yield play with significant single industry risk. Worth considering only for investors who understand that risk and price it in. Number 7. Peterborough, South Australia. Median house price around $190,000. Peterborough was once a major railway town in the mid-north of South Australia. Today the population sits around 1,500 and continues to decline slowly. Houses are extraordinarily cheap by any Australian standard, but the economic base is thin. Peterborough is interesting because the buildings themselves are often charming heritage homes from the railway era. For renovation enthusiasts on a tight budget, Peterborough offers genuine value. For investors looking for capital growth, the trajectory is uninspiring. Number 6. Mount Magnet, Western Australia. Median house price around $200,000. Mount Magnet is a tiny gold mining town in the Western Australian outback. Population sits around 500. Houses are cheap because of remoteness and economic concentration, but rental yields can be very strong when mining is active, sometimes exceeding 8%. This is a high-risk, high-yield play that's appropriate only for investors with significant tolerance for volatility. When the gold price runs, Mount Magnet booms. When it falls, the town empties. Number 5. Tara, Queensland. Median house price around $250,000. Tara is in the Western Downs region of Queensland, with a population around 800. It's primarily agricultural, with some coal seam gas activity in the surrounding area. Houses are affordable, yields are reasonable, but the long-term trajectory of the town is uncertain. Tara is the type of small Australian town where careful buyers can find genuine bargains, but where speculative buyers tend to get hurt. Number 4. Roebourne, Western Australia. Median house price around $230,000. Roebourne is in the Pilbara region, but unlike Karratha or Port Hedland, prices are much lower because of social and infrastructure challenges. It's a complex market. High rental yields driven by mining sector demand exist alongside genuine issues with housing condition, community services, and turnover. Roebourne requires very careful local knowledge and is not suitable for remote investors. Number 3. Whyalla, South Australia. Median house price around $270,000. Whyalla is interesting because it's not really a small town, it has over 20,000 residents. Yet prices remain very low because of decades of industrial decline tied to the steelworks. The recent restart and modernization of the steel facility under new ownership has improved the outlook, and some careful investors are now looking at Whyalla as a potential turnaround story. Yields are strong. Capital growth is uncertain but possible. Number 2. Broken Hill, New South Wales. Median house price around $210,000. Broken Hill is famous as the birthplace of BHP and remains a functioning regional centre with around 17,000 residents. Houses are extraordinarily cheap, yields are healthy, and the town has more cultural and economic depth than most on this list. Broken Hill is genuinely worth considering for budget investors. The risks are real: single industry exposure, distance, and a slowly declining population, but the price point makes the risk-reward more interesting than most cheap towns. And number 1, the cheapest Australian town to buy a real house in 2026. Coober Pedy, South Australia. Median house price under $160,000. Coober Pedy is the famous underground opal mining town in the South Australian desert. Many of the homes are dug into the rock to escape the brutal heat. You can buy genuinely habitable houses here for less than the cost of a new car. And it's a huge but, this is a town in long-term decline. Opal mining is fading, the population has more than halved over 30 years, and climate is becoming more extreme. Coober Pedy is for adventurers, retirees on tight budgets, and curious lifestyle buyers. It is not a wealth-building investment. Before you put a single dollar into any town under $300,000, answer these 3 questions honestly. First, would you live there yourself? If the answer is no, why do you assume tenants will want a long-term? Second, what happens to property values if the dominant local employer reduces workforce by 40% in 5 years? Most cheap towns have 1 or 2 major employers, and that scenario is more common than people realize. Third, what's your exit plan? Cheap towns often have illiquid property markets where selling can take 12 to 18 months. If you need flexibility, this is not the market for you. A $200,000 property that loses value at 3% per year while costing you 4% in interest, plus maintenance, rates, and insurance, is one of the most expensive financial decisions you can make. Compare that to a $600,000 property in a growth market appreciating at 5% per year. The cheap option loses you money. The expensive option builds wealth. Always think in terms of total cost of ownership and net wealth outcome, not just sticker price. The cheapest property is often the most expensive mistake. 10 Australian towns where you can still buy a house for under $300,000. Real opportunities exist for the right buyer. But almost every cheap town comes with cheap for a reason challenges: distance, single industries, declining populations, climate exposure. If you found this useful, smash subscribe. We publish Australian property breakdowns every few days. And if you want to see which Australian cities are absolutely booming right now, click the video on screen. See you in the next one.